Let's just jump right into this explainer. Today, we're tracking the absolutely wild trajectory of a kid who went from being brutally bullied on the playground to becoming a literal industry titan. We are, of course, breaking down the incredible story of Elon Musk. And you really have to stop and look at the sheer scale of this number, $400 billion. To put that into perspective, this doesn't just make him the richest person on the planet, it means he almost doubles the net worth of the second richest guy in the world, Jeff Bezos. And the reason we need to wrap our heads around this scale is because wealth at this magnitude isn't just about money. It's the literal power to single-handedly reshape global industries. But I want you to contrast that massive mountain of wealth with where it all actually started, a far cry from billions, right? Back in 1984, when he was just 12 years old, Musk coded his very own single-player space shooter video game called Blaster. He sold the code for just $500. Technically, that was his very first business. And it really proves that this intense drive and entrepreneurial spark was there right from the start. Section 1. The Genius Outcast. A science lab in his head. So growing up in Pretoria, South Africa, Musk was known to go into these deep, trance-like states. He'd totally tune out the world around him because he was essentially running a fully functioning science lab right inside his head, just visualizing incredibly complex ideas. But having a hyper-logical brain like that kind of alienated him from other kids. For example, once a scared cousin told him she was afraid of the dark, and his response was just straight facts. He told her, "Darkness is only the absence of light." He always responded to people in this highly logical way. It made him different. And sadly, his peers really disliked him for it. He became a target and faced some truly brutal bullying. In one horrifying incident, a gang of students actually threw him down a flight of stairs and beat him so badly he ended up in the hospital. Between dealing with the aftermath of his parents' divorce and the constant violence at school, he knew he had to get out. He realized his potential just needed a much bigger stage, specifically America. So he made a highly strategic move. Using a relative's citizenship, he moved to Canada in 1989, worked some odd jobs, and started college. Eventually, he transferred to the University of Pennsylvania in 1991, finally setting foot in the U.S. Section 2. Disrupting the Internet. The dot-com boom. By 1995, Elon and his brother Kimball rode the dot-com wave by starting Zip2, which basically digitized city paper directories. They eventually sold it, netting him a cool $22 million by the time he was just 27. Now, he could have easily retired right then and there. But instead, he thought back to an old college internship at Nova Scotia Bank and realized the whole banking industry was incredibly slow, old-fashioned, and desperately needed an update. He pictured an all-online bank with zero physical branches. So he dumped $12 million into launching X.com. The catch? Back then, people barely trusted buying a book online, let alone trusting a website with their money. So he used a brilliant strategy. He offered a $20 sign-up bonus that users could spend immediately. And it completely worked. They grabbed 200,000 users in just 2 months. It's a complete masterclass in user acquisition, literally paying people to use a product they didn't completely trust yet. But here's the thing. He wasn't the only guy who saw this opportunity. An intense, wildly expensive marketing war kicked off against another startup called PayPal, run by a young entrepreneur named Peter Thiel. Both companies were burning through millions trying to outcompete each other. Eventually, they realized they were on a collision course to mutual destruction. So to prevent ruining each other, they forced a strategic merger in March of 2000. Elon ended up as the largest shareholder and CEO of this newly combined company. Behind the scenes, though, things were incredibly tense. The staff really wanted to stick with the name PayPal, while Elon was dead set on X.com. On top of that, his polarizing leadership style caused some major friction. He micromanaged everything, publicly called out mistakes, and expected tasks that normally took weeks to be finished in a matter of hours. This all culminated in a massive, dramatic boardroom coup. In a move of staggering irony, while Elon was literally midair on a flight to Australia for his honeymoon, his own board of directors officially fired him as CEO. Talk about a rough start to a honeymoon. But despite losing control of his own company, he remained the biggest shareholder. The company kept growing rapidly under Peter Thiel, so when eBay swooped in and bought PayPal for $1.5 billion in 2002, Elon walked away with a massive, life-changing fortune of $180 million. Section 3. The Space and Auto Gambles. Re-engineering reality. After tragically losing his infant son, Musk threw himself entirely into his work. And to his total shock, he realized NASA had no concrete plans to explore Mars. So he actually flew to Russia to try and buy intercontinental ballistic missiles. The Russians didn't take him seriously at all and demanded an outrageous $21 million for a single missile. So on the flight home, he opens his laptop, runs the numbers himself, and births a ruthless 3-part strategy to slash aerospace costs. This was the birth of SpaceX. Step 1, combine the design and build teams. Step 2, utilize vertical integration by manufacturing parts in-house to avoid slow suppliers. And Step 3, source cheaper, standard components wherever possible. By completely rethinking raw materials and how things were manufactured, he made a wildly bold promise. He said he could send payloads to low Earth orbit for a fraction of the traditional cost. Look at this difference. The industry standard at the time was about $70 million for a launch. Elon's vision for his Falcon 1 rocket was just $7 million. This right here is a massive takeaway for anyone watching. Questioning and entirely deconstructing industry standard pricing is a core entrepreneurial lesson that can open up completely untouched markets. And as if revolutionizing space wasn't enough, he simultaneously took a massive gamble on the auto industry. You have to remember, back then, electric cars were widely seen as slow and ugly. Think of the failed GM EV1. But Elon invested heavily in a startup called Tesla Motors. Their big idea? Use these new lithium-ion laptop batteries to build the ultimate electric sports car, the Roadster. He knew that for electric cars to succeed, they had to be fast, they had to be beautiful, and above all, they had to be highly aspirational. Section 4, the 2008 turning point, the brink of collapse. We've officially reached the climax of our story, and things were looking absolutely dire. Over at SpaceX, the Falcon 1 rocket was supposed to take 1 year to launch, but it took 4. And when it finally did fly, it disastrously exploded or crashed 3 consecutive times. With those 3 failures, SpaceX burned through $100 million in a flash. They only had enough cash left for one final launch, one single shot left, before the whole dream vanished.
At the exact same time, Tesla was a massive financial black hole. Modifying laptop batteries for a car was incredibly difficult. The cost to produce a single Roadster skyrocketed to $100,000, which was way above their $65,000 sale price. With investors completely refusing to put in more money amidst the 2008 global financial crisis, the company was placed on the absolute verge of ruin.
Any logical entrepreneur would have just picked one company to save, right? Cut your losses. Elon didn't. Instead, he riskily sold off his personal assets, including his prized McLaren sports car. He bet every last cent he had left to keep Tesla breathing for a few more days, while simultaneously banking absolutely everything on that 4th rocket launch for SpaceX. In December 2008, the massive gamble actually paid off. The 4th launch of the Falcon 1 succeeded perfectly. Making SpaceX the very first private company to achieve orbit wasn't just a technical victory. It instantly secured them a life-saving $1.6 billion contract from NASA to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. And miraculously, the good news just kept coming. Just weeks later, literally on Christmas Eve, he successfully secured an emergency $40 million funding round for Tesla. This saved the company from bankruptcy just days before collapse, finally allowing the Roadster to reach mass production. Section 5. The controversial empire. The complex reality. From that 2008 turning point, his empire simply exploded. He transformed Tesla with the Model S, launched thousands of Starlink satellites, founded Neuralink to connect human brains to computers, and started the artificial intelligence company xAI. But looking at his modern empire today, we have to acknowledge the complex reality of it all. His relentless drive brings immense innovation, but it is definitely accompanied by polarizing actions. There are widespread reports of extremely tough working conditions. After acquiring Twitter in 2023, he executed massive employee layoffs. His public statements frequently shift global financial markets, and with $280 million in political donations and a close alignment with President Trump, he holds an incredibly potent combination of financial and political power that some people fear and others highly praise. But taking all of that into account, whether you love him or hate him, you simply cannot ignore him. His undeniable legacy is that of a visionary who forcefully wills his ideas into reality. He truly embodies the concept that a man doesn't wait for the future, he builds the future himself. We've gone from a $500 video game to a $400 billion empire spanning rockets, cars, and brain chips. Knowing that the childhood science lab inside his head is still running at full capacity, we really have to ask ourselves, what industry will he disrupt next?
Or maybe the better question is, can the world even keep up with him? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.